Well, hello. It's JK and Kim in the camper, in the house. And
Just working on our next trip, kind of planning. We got the map out. Yeah, old school, because you can see the whole picture a lot easier. Got some shopping lists going. We've got a to-do list coming.
There's always stuff to do. And we've been at home through Christmas after our big, huge, epic trip to the West Coast. And thank you so much if you've gone and watched all of those episodes. That was a big trip for us.
That was a long trip. It was something that we've been reminiscing about ever since we got back for the holidays. And really, let's just kind of get into our trip. This is kind of a reminiscing kind of thing, but also giving you some behind the scenes kind of thing and what happened and things you didn't see on the videos. Just as kind of a recap for you.
So just pretend it's live, but we're not ready for live primetime people.
We're not live people. Plus, we want to show you some of the scenery that we were seeing in the midst of it. And you can't really do that too. I'm sure there's a way to show some of that when you're doing live, but we're not that tech savvy yet.
No.
You have started to grow a nice little beard here for the winter.
Well, I wasn't going to. I just was lazy and didn't shave. And you go, are you growing a beard?
I like you in a beard.
Makes me look old, but whatever.
No, it doesn't. Silver fox. All right, so the stats behind the trip. 35 days or 5 weeks.
That was a long time.
6,000 miles.
6,000, just over 6,000.
Yeah, we did a calculation. It was over 6,000 miles. 11 states. And we're still missing Kansas on our map. I can't tell you how many times we've been out west and we keep missing Kansas. We drive through it all the time, but we've never stayed overnight there.
No. So we're bound and determined to rectify that gross oversight on our part, and we'll probably be doing a video about a trip into Kansas
real soon.
I know, but there's some exciting stuff there. Yeah, you'll be amazed. So that's on the way too. But in the meantime, we're talking about epic West Coast travel, and man, it's our biggest trip. Our longest trip in the van, and 6,000 miles, that was a lot. How many states did we go through?
11 states.
11. Let's count them. Minnesota. Well, we're here in Minnesota, so we Iowa.
Missouri. Oklahoma. Texas.
That's 5.
New Mexico. Arizona. California. Oregon. Colorado,
that's
and
10.
Nebraska on the way home. So we hit New Mexico, Arizona,
California,
Iowa, California, and obviously Minnesota twice.
Yeah.
But 11 states by themselves. So that was a long trip. And we actually cut some things out of our trip that we were planning on, some of the sightseeing and stuff, because we just didn't have time.
Yeah.
We'll talk more about that coming up, but
yeah, we are still processing everything that we saw and everything that we did, and that's the one thing that I like about the photography. You got to take pictures. You have to document your trips, because about halfway through, I don't think we remembered where the heck we'd been up until that point. So it's kind of fun to reminisce and go back and watch these videos.
So the next section is all about our highlights and some disappointments through our 5-week trip. But wait to the end of the video, because we are going to reveal our favorite scenery and our favorite moments for each of us.
Yep. So the obvious reason for the West Coast trip was to get out to California to visit my daughter and her husband and the grandkids. It had been quite a number of years since we had been out to California to visit with them. So obviously for me, that was the big highlight. That was the whole reason for the trip. But beyond that, from a travel standpoint, man, there were so many awesome things that we saw that And we did. That was just incredible.
I think we always try to sneak in some sightseeing on the way out and back to see the kids. We try to get out there every couple of years. It's hard when you're halfway across the country from each other. And we decided to take more time this time, thinking we could do more. And it was an interesting surprise that we came across as far as timing goes. And we'll talk more about that coming up. But some of the highlights, I mean, yeah, having Thanksgiving together for the first time, a holiday together for the first time ever, was pretty epic to have that. And wasn't planned. It just,
It happened.
as we went, we planned on meeting on the coast in California, and we went up to Oregon and came back on the eastern side of California, and that's where the kids live. And the timing worked out just right to be there for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. So that was kind of impromptu, and it was worth every second of it. Other than family, like I said, what was your number one most memorable highlight?
I'm not going to tell you that until later.
Oh.
We're going to reveal our favorite at the very end of this video.
So I better not say what my favorite
We'll just
is.
don't tell your favorite yet. So some of the highlights, though, I liked. Of course, always being at the ocean, that first view of the ocean, when you finally get those sneaky peeks and you're like, oh, there's the ocean. I'm so excited. I love that part.
Yep. So that was a big thing, especially if you haven't seen it for a long time, or like some folks have never seen
So
the
exciting.
Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic. We've been lucky enough in our travels to see both sides.
And the Gulf.
And the Gulf. Yeah.
So that was fun. What else?
The other reason that we slipped back down through California into the Southwest was that we had an appointment to have a van tour video shot by Tiny Home Tours. And that was, well...
Scary and nerve-wracking, but it was really cool. And
We were
Brian,
nervous wrecks.
the lead videographer for Tiny Home Tours, was there. Such a great guy. So glad we got to meet him. Ryan is just awesome. It has not been released yet, but we definitely will share it when it comes out. So that was a 4 to 5 hour video shoot, and it went so fast though. It was so much fun.
We were out in the middle of an off-road vehicle or off-highway vehicle area to the northeast of Flagstaff, and it was gorgeous, and it was all wild camping or dispersed camping, and I think we need to go back there to go camping someday.
Speaking of Flagstaff, we did end up spending 6 days of our 5-week trip in Flagstaff, not by design.
Right.
We really kind of hit Flagstaff on the way out to the west for Laundry Day and hunkering down and that sort of thing to kind of reset. But then it was because of the van tour, we came back to Flagstaff, spent another 3 days, did laundry again. But that's a great little Flagstaff KOA, and pine trees and great dog park. Very convenient to get to. The only bad thing about that KOA is their heaters in the bathrooms were not working
at
too
all
well
when it was
cold for those morning showers. So it was nice to have that KOA. And speaking of KOAs, and this is all kind of going to be all kind of jumbled up a little bit, but we stayed a majority of the time in KOAs because they were open in cold weather. And when you travel in the winter and off season like this, it's hard to find campgrounds that have their waters open so that you can take a shower, have a flush toilet, things like that. And that was a big reason, where we stayed, I guess. And a lot of the KOAs were just fantastic. So hats off to the KOAs that stay open year round. I know it's not super busy, but actually it was kind of nice because there wasn't gobs of people. And it was just quiet and relaxing and just really wonderful. So that was awesome.
Always good. And I think that's our preferred way of traveling is on the shoulder seasons, where you don't have the big massive crowds, and you have to put up with the weather, maybe rainy, maybe cold, but I think that's still good. We were thinking at one point that we were going to be meeting up with Brian and Tiny Home Tours down in Quartzsite.
So we went to Quartzsite and we checked that out for the first time, and that was fun to see in off season. Nobody is really there yet. We kind of beat the crowd. So it was interesting to kind of get a lay of the land of what you see on videos and what is real. And I can see the appeal of a lot of people going there and camping all winter out in the BLM land. So that was fun. We got to see a lot of, not a lot, but quite a few little spots of Route 66, which, oh, shoot. Yes, Route 66. And that was Grants, New Mexico. That was a fun moment. And also getting to Winslow, Arizona. You know the song, don't you? Well, don't you?
No, Arizona. Yeah, and it was more than just a touristy little, oh, look, there's the corner.
Standing on a corner of Winslow, Arizona.
We got out and wandered around, and we were both saying, this is really...
We're here.
There's kind of like this realization of something that was made so known. Everybody knows that song by the Eagles.
Take it easy.
To be standing actually right on the corner, and they've done a wonderful job there in Winslow, Arizona to highlight or capitalize on that. And
I just wanted to buy everything in a store that said, Winslow, Arizona, or Take It Easy, or Standing on a Corner. And it was so fun because you walk into this store that's right there on the corner, and they are playing a live concert.
From the actual corner.
They're playing a live concert of the Eagles, and as we were shopping through there, the song Take It Easy came on, and we were just dancing in the aisles, and it was just
like
fun.
That serendipitous moment
that was really
it was like, oh, that was actually it.
That just happened.
So the flatbed Fords there, and a couple statues of Don Henley and Glenn Fry, and a bunch of tiles and all sorts of stuff. So that was a real memorable time. So after Winslow, Arizona, I don't know, well, that's right. We're not going to be talking about our favorite spot until the very end.
Very end of the video, you'll get our favorite. But, we had some highlights in Pismo. We had some highlights in Half Moon Bay.
Yep.
I think the redwoods were amazing.
I liked that place in the desert near Palm Springs, that lake.
Oh, yes.
That was really...
Kauai, that's how you say it. Kauai. It doesn't look like it, that's how you say it.
That was just...
stunning.
Yeah, some cool photos from that.
I've always wanted to see the northwest of California on the ocean there. The Crescent Cities and things like that. And that was cool. And then Bandon, Oregon. Ooh, I fell in love with that area for big time.
I could hang out there a lot. And there was a lighthouse there, and one of those beaches that we saw has got to be the world capital for collecting driftwood.
God, there's a ton there.
And not just little pieces of driftwood.
Big logs.
Huge logs and things, and a cool lighthouse there. So that was an awesome thing.
We went lighthouse hunting quite often. We saw quite a few lighthouses, and that was fun. One was a bus, though. Remember that one? Oh. It was on a trailer. It was in behind chain link fence or something in a parking lot. That was funny.
Kind of doing a museum stuffed.
So I guess you could call that lighthouse there that was in the parking lot and not really where you normally see a lighthouse a disappointment. So let's transition into
Cape Disappointment.
No, it wasn't Cape.
Oh, okay.
So let's transition into the disappointments of a trip. I think you always have some that you're like, oh, I didn't go like I planned. What were some disappointments for you? Things just don't go as planned sometimes.
Well, I think for me the main one was covering so much ground so quickly that you just don't have a chance to really immerse yourself in a town or an area. You're always focused on, we need to be moving and moving and moving, and that was kind of disappointing because there were some really cool places that I think we probably would have stayed a little bit longer to investigate or to go and look around, but
it's interesting because with 5 weeks we thought, oh, we've got time, and we had several nights where we stayed down 2 to 3 nights. So there were quite a few places that we did stay a couple of nights for sure, and 3 nights. So it felt sometimes like we were moving every night, and there was a lot of that. But we did have, like, the Flagstaff was definitely a stay down for a couple of times. The kids up in their home area was like 3 nights. The Cape or the Lake Kauai was a couple of nights. Pismo was a couple of nights. I mean, we did have quite a few, but that still felt like it wasn't enough time,
Right.
which is really, and that was a lot slower than we normally have done it in the past. So that was really a good lesson for us, knowing that you get to know how slow you want to really travel. But when you're driving halfway across the country to try to hit a bunch of sites, it's hard, and especially in a short amount of time. I mean, you think about a 2-week vacation, 3-week vacation, and you're taking 3 days to drive out there, 3 days to get back on a rush drive. And that doesn't leave a lot of time when you really want to hunker down. So we've talked about different ways to travel after this trip for sure, but that is definitely an eye-opener for us.
Yeah, and when we were at a place, at a campground or a spot for several days, we were doing chores and getting laundry done. And
So it's not like we were in our camp chairs just hunkered down doing nothing.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And because we weren't in the camp chairs, it's because it was cold. That was one of the biggest disappointments for me. And I think we were trying to escape the cold to go out west and get some warmth. Gosh, we had to change our plans right away out of the gate. And we were supposed to hit Colorado on the way down and out to the west. They had a winter weather advisory. We didn't feel comfortable on that, so we abandoned ship. We were trying to find warm weather. On that week, it was this weird freak cold front that moved in.
Yeah, it just covered the entire nation. And I think the only place that had temperatures that were above 30 or 40 was along the Gulf Coast or very
Mexican border.
Down Mexico.
Yeah. So we figured out how to do that. Our equipment issue that we really figured out that was an issue was that our DC to DC charger, is that what it is? When you drive, our batteries weren't getting charged. So that forced us into not boondocking as much as we wanted to, or at all, because it was cold, because the equipment issues. We had to plug in, and that's why we were at all the KOAs, so we could plug in, not because of the water, but because, well, the showers were nice, obviously, but it was really about having electric capacity for our space heater, which I'm so grateful you threw in at the last minute. If we didn't have that, that would have been kind of a problem.
Yeah, so I think if it wasn't for the really frigid cold temperatures, I think we would have been fine without the charger unit charging our house batteries, because we would have had enough from solar to keep things topped off, just to run lights and the occasional fan or whatever. But that ended up being a lot bigger problem than we thought, especially with all the mileage that we were driving, that we shouldn't have ever dropped below 100% on our house batteries. But a couple times we were down, and we definitely needed to plug in to the shore power at the campground to jack up the batteries.
Yeah, and I guess the last disappointment would be, just really the cost. I mean, we don't tip, we haven't, we probably should. We're not very good at budgeting. We try to be frugal because we're just frugal people to start with. We'll eat mostly in our van. We try to make most of our food. We are trying to find the best gas prices, but when you get out to California, we expected higher gas prices, and they were $5 to $6 on average in California. That one spot was over $7.
Yeah, close to $8, and that was out in the middle of the desert.
They got you. They know you need it, and we did at that time. Just timing, but that increased, that equipment issue increased our cost issue, because we didn't plan on camping at a campground every single night. So on average, I would say we probably spent like $50 a night per place. So I mean, you think about that for 35 days, that adds up.
It does.
And so that was a lot more than we ever anticipated, but what are you going to do? It's cold, everything changed. I mean, so we had to rethink everything in the midst of the trip.
And we used extra fuel because at the very beginning of our trip, we were trying to outrun the cold and the storms. And so we, instead of going into Colorado and New Mexico, we ended up diving all the way down into south central Texas, and it was still cold down there. But eventually the weather sort of cleared up. So by the time we started to head west through New Mexico and things, we had pretty good weather, but it was still quite chilly.
I remember the conversation that we had when we were trying to outrun the cold, and we were in northern Texas, and we're like looking at the map of temperatures, and we had a couple of extra days and we're like, should we just go down to South Padre for a couple of days where we can actually get warm? And
They weren't that warm.
no, and we're just like, no, that's stupid. Let's just keep going. And I think that's where we kind of ended up in Flagstaff for a couple of nights than we expected on the way out. But
Right. We did do some boondocking a few times up in Northern California. But for the most part, the weather just was not cooperating for us. But that's what happens when you camp on the shoulder seasons. You know, your weather isn't the sunny 75 everywhere you go. What?
so this one here,
Problem
and
child.
the other one down there was the problem child. Traveling with dogs is a joy, yes, and it can be a challenge. We have two big dogs. They're each of them are 60 pounds each.
This is Tia, by the way.
Yeah, she's T.
Say hi, Tia.
And the other one is Willow, and she's a border collie. She's the black one. And they take up the entire floor of our van that's open. So we do play Twister the entire trip. So you think about what that does to your body. You remember the game as a kid, Twister. You are taking gigantic leaps over the kids for baby kids and just trying to get to your porta potty at night.
And they don't move.
They don't
At least
move.
Willow doesn't move. So
No.
traveling with the dogs, definitely a challenge in a small, short wheelbase van.
Yeah, it is a challenge, and we've had sick dogs almost every trip. Our one big trip out west, we had another dog named Emmy. She ended up being really sick our entire trip.
Not just throwing up that kind of car sick, but
We found out she had cancer when we got back, but that was a lot of her issue that we didn't know about going out. But this trip, it was just a couple of days in, and the dog who never gets sick got sick, and that's Willow.
Yeah.
And Willow is now 12, and I, of course, went into fur mama worry, thinking it was reliving Emmy all over again, and going, oh, it's just started, and that's what happened to Emmy. She got sick right before we left on our trip, and the doc said to take her anyway, and so we did, and she was a trooper. And Willow, I don't know what got into her. I think it was she was sitting back between our beds in the back, and we were on some bumpy roads, and I want to believe that it was just a little bit of motion sickness that got her, and she vomited, and we cleaned it up, and we figured it out, but it's a challenge sometimes.
it is because I think one shout out to the girls, because what troopers, this was some of the most curviest, bumpiest, just back and forth,
Up and
forth.
down.
And if you thought you had an iron stomach, you think about laying on the floor of your van while going on a roller coaster drive along Highway 1 up the coast of California, and you don't get squeamish. They did awesome.
They did.
Tia had a little bit of issue with not wanting to eat for a couple days.
She does that every trip. She gets a little finicky, like, what's going on? My routine is off. I don't want to eat. And so we just kind of sit there and mess with that for a while.
Yeah.
A lot of the heater in the campgrounds and things were really because of the dogs. I think we could have hunkered down ourselves and bundled up in blankets and stuff, but we were in the teens overnight. And the dogs, we have an insulated floor, but it's just cold.
Right.
And
there's only so many blankets and pads and things, and then they have their beds and then blankets over them. So it's not like they were suffering too much, but it wasn't ideal conditions.
Yep. So we plugged in just to make sure that everybody was comfortable. It worked.
Yeah.
We made
And
it
the
work.
other thing too is if you're trying to make time, busting a move, getting the miles in or whatever, you have to consider that the dogs need to take a potty break, and everybody needs to stretch their legs. So it's probably good. Otherwise, I think we just keep driving and keep driving and keep driving. But you have to take your pets in consideration that they need to kind of chill out for a second.
We try to keep them on their routine, but when you're going across time zone differences,
that's true.
they're hungry sooner than usual.
And then wasn't it daylight savings time?
Yeah, we got faced in that too. So their system was thrown off quite a bit, but we try to keep them on routine as much as we could. Took them out the usual times, things like that. We try to keep remembering what the time was back home and that sort of thing. But all in all, they're good travelers. They enjoy traveling. it's not like we have to, coax them into the van, ever. They are very anxious to go with us. And that's the joy of, having them with us, and obviously dogs are pet therapy too, they're there for you. And, so it's
Yeah.
I wouldn't want it any other way.
Their hair is always there for you. Their fur is everywhere.
And your
in the
food and
van.
everything else.
But, the other thing too is that we're not the kind of people that just open the van door and let the dogs take off. They're always on leashes, always with collars, and we're always with them and picking up their little puppy pickles and things like that. So we try to be as responsible pet owners while traveling as we can and be aware of our surroundings when we are walking them. A lot of places that you pull off are pretty nasty and scary.
And some truck stops have dog parks or like little fenced off areas, which I love those. Those are awesome for them.
Yeah, but if you use those, pick up
your
dog
poo
stuff. I can't tell you how many times we went to a truck stop or any kind of dog park, dog walking thing, and there was poop everywhere. The bags and the garbage can were sitting right there inside the dog park, and it's like, come on.
Disrespectful. It's about respecting each other, right?
Right.
All right, so that's the dog scenario, in case you're wondering on that.
Just don't say we're going on an adventure too loud. With
Or an RIDE, then we don't do that. This one's a tough one. It's the emotional part of traveling. It's the highs, the lows, emotionally, physically, and everywhere in between. And we went through this one was more challenging than any other trip, I think.
I think it was because of the length of time, trying to juggle work, and this was the first trip that we actually tried to produce and upload content to our YouTube channel. We're seeing family for the first time in a long time. We were seeing things that were just beyond belief as far as a challenge for our emotions and our senses, and plus one of the things that you had talked about is the transition from normal life in your house to transitioning to van life and trying to make that normal during that time, and then the transition back after being on the road for so long to getting back into your home base.
I think nobody really talks about that. When you are a full-time worker at home, at your home base, and you leave for that length of time, there is coming off of that adrenaline that you're in all the time, that pace that you're in all the time. And as a realtor, I'm going a lot, and it's a very high level of moving and doing things and being focused in on that.
Full throttle.
And then when you scale that back, and you definitely need to scale back sometimes, but it is a challenge to taper off. Even have clients get used to you being away and slower response rates. You ended up actually working more than I did this trip because of the videos. Because you're doing videos on the road, which
that was a big learning curve, and that was a test of patience. And hats off to everybody that produces videos while on the road and trying to deal with that. It's a lot of work, a lot of hard work and stress on your brain and your patience.
We took 2 laptops, my old laptop for you, and it just was not working. So that pretty much died in the middle of it. So then we had to start using the other laptop. But the thing that I learned was, when you were working and I'm trying to lounge for once, it was kind of a role reversal on trip. Because you were doing the work and I was lounging, and that's kind of how it is at home. No, no, he doesn't lounge all day. But it was just a role reversal a little bit.
Yeah.
But I ended up at one point kind of losing my patience, because it's like I felt trapped. Once the lagoon table got up there, the laptop got up there, I couldn't get out of my bed where I'm lounging and cords and everything. And I felt trapped onto my bed, which was where I was lounging. And so at some point I kind of lost it, I think. And I said, can you just go and put it over there in the passenger chair and work over there? At least I can get up and, feed the dogs and, kind of try to keep some routine going. And that really worked well. I liked that a lot. That really needs to happen.
The next step would have been out the door with you, but
boom. No, I get a little claustrophobia. So when I feel trapped, I just kind of feel very closed in, and it's fine for a little while. But then after a while, I'm like, I just need to get up and stand up and things like that, and be able to leave the camper when I want to and things like that. So we did learn that lesson on that process.
And the other thing too is like you're putting in long hours driving and trying to navigate. Kim is an excellent navigator and keeps us on track and keeps us going. And I usually do the driving. Most of this trip I drove because I'm an awful navigator. So we might not even be back yet.
There's an idea.
I don't know how we ended up in Florida.
There's an idea there. No, I think, I navigate myself all the time. I've offered to drive. You probably noticed that JK does all the driving and I do the navigating. And, there's a lot of times where you're having to navigate through cities and through
interchanges,
anything, and all of a sudden you change your mind, or you're looking ahead and, something changes. And you can't do that so much on your own. When I'm driving around our small town, it's easy to navigate on my own. You punch in an address and you go to it. But when you're on the road like that, especially a big city, it helps to have someone look ahead for you, going, okay, your turn and your exit is this way. You got to be in the right lane. So that you know what you're doing.
Better than that lady that comes on and goes, make a right turn in 300 yards.
And 300 yards is not enough to move over into a lane if you need to get over. So at any rate, that's our routine. Is I would love to drive. I drive all the time at home for my job, and it's a nice reprieve in the beginning, but then I'm like itching to drive because I do love driving an open road. And so that might be something that I can try to squeeze in on those easy drives when we're going through the interstates or something like that there's not a lot of changes.
Yeah. But my point is that, with those long hours, you get stressed out and then you start to get tired and then you get cranky or hungry and hangry. And then you tend to nip at everybody, including each other and the dogs and people just passing by for no apparent reason. And that's a hard thing to identify and say, hey, I need to snap out of this. Yeah, we're all tired. We're all road weary. And we need to, be friendly.
Need to be on the same team. If we're going to get to this goal of getting out west and doing all this stuff, we need to be happy. And if it's not shown on Vanlife videos that you watch, they have to have moments of taking some time to themselves. And I think that's the big part of it. Going to the shower house and taking your time, taking the dogs for a walk, somewhere apart from each other for just a minute, so that you can just have some alone time. I think that's really important to find whatever that is, whether you go off on a photo safari or something and I hang back with the dogs, or I go off on a photo safari and you stay back with the dogs. I mean, it's kind of some of those things that we take turns doing. And I think we did it naturally and sometimes, but we did get a little snarky with each other, a little bit more than usual on this trip. And I think it was a combination of everything, the disappointments, the coming down from the daily grind, the cold weather, nothing was going as planned in the beginning. It was very challenging. It wasn't just the weather. It was, not just the DC Charger, but there was something else that we lost power or something right away, and it was like a breaker blew or something, and just it seemed like it was going one thing after another, and we're just like, maybe we shouldn't be going on this trip, and we started second guessing it. And then once you just like, nope, we're committed, we're going to be doing this, and then you just kind of start to relax into it. And
you get your groove, you get into the routine, and when that happens, then it's like the bed becomes more comfortable, and you remember where you put everything, and you get that routine when you're jumping around over dogs and doing the dance, as they say.
And I think that, by the time we come back home, then it's the reverse of that. So now, you're tired. You've heard that before. I need a vacation from going on vacation. I mean, sometimes it is like that. And it is for us too, where we need that downtime to try to okay, how do we get back into this big house? And we don't have a big house, but it feels huge after being in the van for 5 weeks. So then, we just try to get back into our routine here. And the dogs, of course, were extremely excited when we got home, and they're running all over the place. So,
but there's those two transitions in between. Now, if you're full-time in it, you've already maybe gone through that initial switch over to the new reality, the new normal. But when you do it part-time, or even just weekend warrior thing, by the time you get all your routines down, you're heading home, and it's like, we're just getting into the groove and getting used to it. So that's a big emotional swing there for us. What are some of the other aspects that you deal with on long trips?
Physical ailments, whether you're getting sick, colds, sinus. Oh man, our sinuses were just acting up in the dry weather.
Yeah.
We're used to humidity here in the Midwest, so our sinuses were acting up, so we were taking extra medicine for that. Last winter we went to Corpus Christi. If you haven't seen that trip, go check it out in our videos. But last trip, I fell and hurt my back.
You missed a step coming down, because the bathrooms at this campground were up 2 flights of stairs. Very convenient.
And I missed a step for some reason. It just kind of looked like I was going down. I don't know.
Dark.
Something weird. I missed a step, fell down, got lucky, but I hurt my back and my leg, and we had the platform beds at that time. And that's the impetus behind the twin beds now that we're in, so I can get in and out if I fall again, because I do have a tendency of falling. And I don't even drink. So this time it was Flagstaff on the way home. We had just been at the kids, stayed in Barstow, and in Flagstaff we were getting ready for bed one night, and I felt something weird on my leg. And I said to you, who is extremely squeamish on anything medical, I said, what is this? Because I couldn't see it. It was far enough back on my thigh that I couldn't see it. And you said it was a tick.
Yep.
And I've never had a tick before. Minnesota is very common.
It's known for ticks.
Yeah, we have ticks here everywhere.
Blood-sucking things.
And I hate them. I hate the thought of them.
Well, they carry a potential for Lyme disease and other diseases. So.
And I've heard that is not fun to deal with. No. So I don't want that. So we quickly, you quickly went into action. I'm like, I have a tweezers, go get that. This is one of those things, keep your first aid kits, keep your tweezers, keep your tick removers nearby. Just so it's
antiseptics and all that kind of stuff.
Have it all ready. And one of our bins was our pharmacy, basically. It's where we kept everything. But you got the tweezers out. Of course, the head was already in my leg. And you left the head in my leg because you didn't know how to pull it out. And here's the funny story, though, because when I was a kid, my dog had a tick. And
they used sick.
No, they used heat to try to draw the tick out.
Yeah. Well,
so I said to you, I'm like, I don't know, it needs heat or something. I said, put a lighter next to my leg or something. And yet all you had was the butane fire starter thing. Anyway, you heated up a knife, which we had like a real silver knife in there, like a regular utensil, metal thing. And you put it on my leg, and that was like a burn. It just hurt so bad. But it didn't pull out the tick.
No,
and
tough
so
guy.
you tried to get him out with the tweezers, and he was in my leg pretty good. And so the head came out. And so then you had to dig it out. It was not fun. At any rate, being able to chat with your medical care provider on a portal, that's what I did. Told her what was happening, what it looked like. We thought we got it out because it's still healing to this day. It's still not 100% healed up there.
Right. We took pictures so you could send to show them.
Yep. And then she's prescribed an antibiotic right away. We picked that up in the next stop of Santa Fe. Took those, and
That kind of made you sick too.
Yeah, that had
pills.
kind of a side effect with that, but there's strong antibiotics for those ticks. But you're going to face stuff like that, and you got to be ready for it. You got to be ready for anything that comes your way when you travel like this. You just don't know what you're coming up against. Of course, my worst fears are coming up against scorpions and snakes and bears. Even though I want to see a bear, I don't want to have an encounter with a bear.
Hey, bear.
Anything that is just, tough situation. So a tick is a minor thing, but it still was a pain in the butt and leg, and we still had to deal.
Yep. The other stressors and things is, dealing with the physicality of loading in water and loading out your toilet wastes and finding water and hauling water and all that kind of stuff. That was not stressful, but it was another aspect of the whole trip that made you have to be deliberate and think and try to find, we use filtered water, so we needed to find those vending machines that have the vended water that's purified and has the reverse osmosis, and then have the money to to get the water and carry it and transfer it in. So those were things that were kind of difficult. Plus, there's always the physical aspects of travel. There's just, you can't get away from it. That's why travel when you're young.
Well, you can.
Yeah.
But I think any kind of rig that you have, you're going to have that. You're going to have some sort of physicality of dumping your tanks. You have to get on the ground to do that.
Some of the rigs, yeah.
And that's one of the reasons we got rid of our rigs, because it was becoming a challenge for you to bend down that low and to try to do that. It was kind of a pain. So this was our next step. We'll rethink different things maybe down the road when you're not able to anymore. I mean, I was helping a little bit, but 7 gallons of water is very heavy.
Yeah.
And we are right now, that's the choice we've made, to just always have filtered water on board or purified water. We don't have the expensive jerry cans that filter it for us, things like that. So we don't just take any water. We go and buy it. So
and the dogs too, because they're used to drinking a certain water that we have here in our house, and so to change them up, that's another possibility of making them sick.
Yeah.
So we're trying to cover all our bases in that respect. One of the other things that you laugh at it now, but you have a serious fear of going down steep grades and curvy roads, and you faced a lot of your fears on this journey, because the majority of our drive was on very steep, curvy roads.
Okay, so it's not like a full-on fear, but it is just like this uncomfortable feeling. I do them all the time, obviously. I don't have a choice. I'm in the passenger side, so I have to go through these. But when I see the downhill at 6 or 7% grade, I'm freaking out a little bit. It's the sign that triggers it. And it's because you're usually going downhill super fast on an interstate or something, and all of a sudden at the end, you have a turn. And then you've got this runoff ramp from the semi, so they're coming behind you fast. And you're trying to go down fast, but you don't want to be out of control fast.
No, especially in a top-heavy van.
So that's the interstate one that freaks me out. On the turny, curvy roads in California on Highway 1 that we were on, that was a physical, demanding thing. When you are going downhill fast, and you're turning, your body is like this the whole way, and your muscles are tightening. Your core, as they say, was taking a workout, and we're not in shape, so it hurt.
Well, that's why my six-pack is doing pretty good.
In the fridge.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it is. It's like riding a mild roller coaster for hours and hours, because you are being thrown back and forth and hanging on the white knuckle thing.
And I have had motion sickness in the past on those turny, curvy roads. So I had my Dramamine type thing with me in case that happened. And I'm always worried about that again, because it is not fun. I live with vertigo, so I always have a little bit of uneasy balance thing. And I think that kind of contributes to some of that too. All right, it's time for the number one moment and the number one scenery for each of us. I have mine. Do you have yours?
Wow, that is just so hard to pick one out of all the places that we've seen, the 11 states that we were in. Of course, the first couple states that we went through, maybe not as memorable, although I do remember stopping at the Prairie Woman's P-Town Pies in
Oh, that was good.
Pahuska, Oklahoma, on that rainy night that we were trying to get towards, or get out of the, I don't know, get out of the weather.
But that was fun.
That was fun. But you have yours?
I do. Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
All right. So my first and favorite scenery of this trip is very different than any other trip. I never would have expected it, but it is my favorite of this entire trip, was being in the redwoods.
Yes.
I had some sort of emotional reaction to being in those redwoods. They were just
It was spiritual.
my favorite
Yep.
feeling of and scenery of the trip. But the moment that I had the most fun and the moment that I'll cherish forever was time with the kids and grandkids. How do you top that? I can't top that with anything, because it just, to spend time camped on their property for the first time ever, and you get to hang out and watch them motocross and jump on the trampoline and do their life, and you get to witness it. It was just a treasure for us.
Yep. So that would be my first, but that's obvious. I mean, you know, from that standpoint, from a travel standpoint, I was going to say driving LA traffic on the 402, but that's probably not. Being at the ocean this time for me, I mean, the redwoods, incredible. I'd go back there in a heartbeat. You know, it was just, like I said, a spiritual place. You're among these ancient living things, you know, and trees that are huge, and it makes you feel so small. But the ocean this time for me really impacted me a lot. It was an emotional time going back and spending some time,
The old stomping grounds.
in places I grew up going to. And the other emotional stuff was, you know, seeing the changes in places, and a lot of them not for the best, you know, of my old haunts or towns that I used to go to when growing up, and in California along the coast there, that have so changed. And it's, you know,
It's different.
a lot of times you think, if it's a really fond memory, is it best just to keep that memory
And not go
intact
back.
and not go back and have that shattered? So that was kind of an emotional thing for me, to see a lot of places that, you know, I looked forward to being able to go back and visit again, that were, you know, just a fraction of their former glories, or just so crowded and overdeveloped and things like that it was hard. But I would say definitely the ocean. We saw very different aspects of the ocean, from the Southern California, the beach and the waves and the surfers, all the way up into Oregon, where the coast was just incredibly powerful, and just
I think
lots
that
and lots of energy.
normally the ocean is my favorite as well, but this time I think I was intimidated by it so much. I was scared to go into the water this time, because it looked like there was a lot of rip current action going on and things like that, where, well, we were at the most dangerous, you know, beach ever, I think,
Yeah.
or something on the coast or
Right.
something. So that was really intimidating, but I will always love the coast and the ocean, and again, that giddiness that you feel when you first see
Yeah.
it. I can't wait to get to the water every single time, but there was just a little bit for me that the redwoods were amazing.
Yeah.
And then the moment, you know, another moment, if it's outside of family, you know, I think I really had, I had a real good feeling about Bandon, Oregon. I loved it up there. I loved our campground there. We were at a state park. There wasn't a lot of people around, a lot of trees, and just feel very rustic
Close
and
to the ocean there.
yeah,
too.
and you could hear it, you could smell it.
Yep.
So it was just that Pacific Northwest thing. Again, you talk about reminiscing. It's reminiscent of when we lived in Washington State. So you're almost there, and you get that feeling of you get a lot of flashbacks. I think, especially when anytime we go out west, I think we have a lot of flashbacks. So that kind of tugs at your heart a little bit.
Well, the one thing I think to wrap up on with this do-all, tell-all of our epic West Coast adventures that we have we now done every state in the West?
If you use Mississippi River west of the Mississippi, we have slept in every state except Kansas.
Oh yeah, Kansas. That's right. There's nothing in Kansas.
Louisiana is on both sides of the Mississippi. We haven't slept there, so
we have been there.
We've been through there, and we've been through Kansas too. And we've slept there before, but just not with a van or a camping situation. So we are after that end all be all Kansas sticker.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to work hard on that. We're gonna force ourselves to go to Kansas, and we're doing it just for you, so you can see what's there.
Kansas.
Oh, that happens to be the Kansas map.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
this is getting serious now.
we got to get this done. And then as we look forward to 2024,
Now. Go. Now. Go.
Well, Kansas leads us into our plans for 2024, and our first trip will be Kansas.
Kansas.
And
Kansas,
we're hoping to
Bonito.
do that here pretty quick. And then outside of that, because we did that epic trip this last year, we're probably not going to do anything as epic, I don't think.
Well, you never know. I mean, for sure, when we were talking about a couple places as possibilities for us to travel,
Don't go there yet.
we want to go someplace for Kim where the road is flat. There's no downhills. There's no uphills. So Kansas is going to be probably.
Other places we've talked about, we want to get to Theodore Roosevelt National Park up in North Dakota, which is a regional trip.
Vanilla Custard Park.
And Door County, Wisconsin.
Oh, Door County, Wisconsin.
Which is the thumb of Wisconsin. So if this is Wisconsin, this is the Door County. So that's by Lake Superior, and it would be fun to kind of go down by Lake Michigan. Those are my old stomping grounds, so that would be fun to go back there.
It's more like this, isn't it?
Something. I don't know. You know what I mean. As far as a bigger trip, I think suffice it to say, after such a big West trip, I think we need to start knocking off some states in the East. And so not sure where that is just yet, but I think that would be a goal for this year, is to try to get some of our Eastern states done.
Yeah, because we've been to the Grand Canyon. We've been to Utah and Bryce Canyon. We've been
Flagstaff.
We've been to Florida. We've been to Washington,
done the whole West,
and all that. So, if you have suggestions for some really awesome places that are east of the Mississippi, put them down in the comments below, because we're definitely searching for some new places to go. I mean, we've been through Illinois and Indiana. We went down into Tennessee and the kind of the southern states.
South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia,
those are
and
nice.
Florida. We did that trip in 2022 down to Florida, but I think, I don't know, I'm feeling like
Maine or Vermont.
I don't know if it's going to be there this year. I think I don't want to do a 5-week trip this year, so I think it's going to be somewhere that we can go for a few weeks and knock off some states and see some pretty stuff. So I don't know. We're still planning stages. That will probably fall again. Would tend to be fall travelers. So
and depending on how business is for the majority of the year, dictates when we're able to break away and spend some time traveling. But for the most part, I think expect some more regional trips from us.
Maybe some local ones. Maybe we can do some more cooking for you. We haven't done a lot of cooking in our places where it's really kind of recipe driven. Or
Sure. Yeah, we could do that as well. Sharing our local area. I mean, I know it's, Iowa and
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
But you got to go through these states to get somewhere. So Yeah, check out our I-90 series that we did last year. That gives you some good Minnesota I-90 stopping points, which I think is helpful for travelers going through. But yeah, that's kind of our plans for 2024. Still trying to solidify it, but the first trip is Kansas.
Kansas, here
There's got to be some pretty there other than the flat land.
Well, ask Dorothy. She knows.
She wasn't there for very long.
No.
All right. Well, I guess that'll do us for this time. Thank you guys so much for subscribing. We are, trying to push towards that 1,000 mark, slow but sure. Yep. But thank you for growing us to where we are today. We're over 500 and still growing. Thanks for watching all of our videos. If you haven't watched them all from our West Coast, start back at the beginning where I'm freezing on the bed, all wrapped up in a blanket.
That's right. And we have,
177 videos or something.
How'd that happen?
Binge watch. I mean, they're not great, but we're learning. We're still learning. One highlight. We just ordered a new camera.
For our channel. So expect some new things cinematography-wise.
I don't know if it's going to be that great, but we're going to try to keep improving our channel for you.
Everything will be in slow motion. So, yeah, that's coming up. So, again, tell your friends, tell your traveling companions, tell your van-owning people to check out our channel and please subscribe. It's really helpful. We'd like to be able to get more people to enjoy our trips along with us. So
it's fun to have you guys a part of our trips.
Appreciate
comment down below on which hat you liked us wearing tonight.
What do you mean? I always was wearing this one, wasn't I? What's your favorite hat?
Oh, we're just trying to have some fun with you. Thank you for watching. We'll chat with you soon.
And remember, any day in the van
is a good day.